Today's show is brought to you by Audible. Audible is offering our listeners a free audiobook with a 30-day trial membership. Just go to audibletrial.com/thewafflepress and browse the unmatched selection of audio programs. Download a title free and start listening. It's that easy. Go to audibletrial.com/thewafflepress. You're working overtime, man. You got to get paid for this.
Dude, I don't get paid for shit. I do like all these podcasts I do. I don't get paid for it. I do it for fun. But I'm trying to eventually get to a point where it goes, hey, I'm gonna start charging money for these, but not yet.
That's our goal too here on the Waffle Press podcast. Hello, welcome back to another episode of Waffle Press Hangouts. I'm your host Diego Crespo. Also with me today is Gene Versa, my co-host.
Hey, how are you?
I'm great. I'm even better than usual today because we got a guest, Shak Lambert, on the show. Hello, how are you?
What's up? Also, was not prepared for the start time because I just started recording my end.
Don't even worry about it.
But yeah, hey guys, what's up?
Look, for listeners of the show, they know that these things are basically borderline disasters whenever we record, but that's kind of our charm. So, you know, we just kind of roll with it.
Yeah. And I also just like to say one thing, that I listened to you guys when Sarah was on, my co-host Sarah Sorrentino. You guys talked about Digimon movie. And let me just say that Digimon is the best fucking thing ever. Better than Pokemon. The Digi-Rap at the beginning of the movie is better than the Poke-Rap, the fucking the one on the show.
God.
I'm just spitting flames right now because yeah, that whole thing was just like, that movie rules, and I will not accept any other opposing decisions.
No, you're just spitting facts right now. I mean, like the middle portion of that movie is amazing.
Literally, it's so good that the dude did it again and just did it under a different title.
That's what everyone keeps telling me. I really need to see that movie.
Yeah, Summer Wars is literally just Digimon the movie.
Yeah,
with just a family aspect to it, and it's the best shit ever.
It's such a ripoff of it. It's like it's not even funny. Like they didn't even try to hide it.
Yeah, like, although is it really a ripoff when it's the same dude doing the same movie?
Like you just copy yourself. Yeah, I mean, like for was it Bright? David Ayer,
right, yeah.
Yeah, David Ayer just copies like 3 or 4 shots from Training Day.
Not even shots, like actual scenes.
Yeah, he copies scenes. Yeah, he's copying himself. I would say so.
True.
Yeah.
But that time he did it much worse than he did the first time. This one is on an equal level of like, this is good as fuck.
Yeah.
But it's like a complete movie too?
Yes.
Oh, man. Oh, so it's better. All right.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's a complete thing.
Well, thank you for joining us. What have you been up to, Shak? What's going on in your life? Plugs. Let's just get them out of the way on the top of the show so we can get into this nonsense.
I am a part of a lot of shit. I'll say that.
Lay it on me.
Yeah, the main thing that I co-host is the co-host sequels, where we talk about direct-to-video sequels to popular films. That you could just find at sequels with 2 E's. I'm also over on oneofus.net, which is one of my main areas where you'll see me over, where I do a bunch of stuff like Their Final Watch Begins, which is our final season of Game of Thrones podcast. We have the Eye on the Prize, which is like our award season podcast. The Screener Squad, which is like our low-key video on demand and smaller releases reviews of like newer films and stuff like that. And occasionally the Breakfast Pub, which is like our weekly news show where we talk about like trailers and all the biggest like movie and TV news. Nice. Yeah, that's a lot.
Wow. You're keeping busy.
Time
gets sunk up by those things so much, but it's just so much fun to do.
Of course.
Gene, what's new with you?
Just right now, just working on the short film that you and me wrote together. Having a assembly cut finished of that. So if anyone's been following that, that's what I've been doing. And,
All right. I need to go over and just like steal your laptop to watch it.
No.
Plugs for us. You'll have heard it at the top of this episode before we officially started. Check out Audible and all that jazz. Don't forget to check out our Patreon. We have a sneak peek of stuff we're doing coming up soon. Early access to other retrospectives, including Spider-Man, which will be starting very soon. I'm going to take a long nap after that retrospective, but just other stuff coming on in the world, and I guess we're about to talk about a quick little retrospective for another series on this Hangout episode. Game of Thrones just ended, and this is kind of like the biggest pop culture event in our television lifetime, at least. I can't think of something bigger, maybe like Friends, but no one actually likes Friends anymore.
Sopranos?
Sopranos gets close. Breaking Bad got close.
Yeah.
Lost got close.
Yeah.
Lost. Oh, Lost. Are we all Lost finale fans here?
Yeah,
I've never watched anything past the pilot of Lost.
Shak, what are you doing?
Dude, you know the thing is when it originally aired, I was pissed off about it because it took away the time from fucking My Wife and Kids, which is my favorite show at the time. So like, what is this shit? I'm like, oh, it's probably just a movie. Like, oh no, this is a show that's keep going on week to week. Where's my fucking
My Wife and Kids?
And then I found out it ended.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that.
Eventually I got over it, and then like I was like, oh hey, I'll eventually get to watch, and then I just never did.
Yeah,
because people got pissed off at the end. I was like, well, I guess I'm just not gonna watch it.
Well, I mean, this is the thing, like about television finales. How many like universally satisfy everyone? Like none. Like that's just impossible. But generally, there are consensus about which ones are the better ones. Lost is certainly one of the more divisive ones. Gene and I know are big fans of it.
I know a lot of people who hated it.
Oh yeah, I still know people that hate it.
Those are just, I don't know, just like for some divisiveness for a divisive finale like that. It's like it's been like 10 years. It's like you still hate it,
I mean, there's people who are only just coming around to the Sopranos season finale.
Yeah.
I think there's a trick to this too, actually. I think we're seeing right now a lot of like creators and directors and writers talking about the stuff that they just put out into the world, and I think that can kind of skew perspective on things. Whereas like the Sopranos, who was it? David Chase?
David Chase.
Okay.
Yeah, David Chase.
When he finished the Sopranos, he didn't explain what it was about, what the final ending was. He still doesn't. He leaves it up interpretation. Like David Lynch with Twin Peaks. He doesn't explain anything. He just kind of is talking about his process in making it, but he doesn't explain the themes overtly. He wants everyone to come away with their own takeaway from it. And I think that helps things age very well. Game of Thrones, not so much for people, I guess.
Yeah. I've had time to think about it. And like, I like where the characters ended up at the end. It's just a shame that they just essentially shat the bed and just rushed the whole shit.
Yeah,
I am exactly where you're at. I hated these last couple seasons. I have not been shy about how little I've liked. Season 6, I think, is actually pretty good, especially towards the end. And there are moments that really work, but I think season 7 really just kind of broke the show, where it was like it traded character for spectacle and like hitting plot beats. And so there was like no way in hindsight that season 8 would have been satisfying, just because that season I think did the show and character so dirty. But let's just go around. Shaq, what are your thoughts on Game of Thrones, like as a whole, going into the final season?
It's weird how my feelings have gone for Game of Thrones, because when it started, I could not give a fuck less, because I'm weird about fantasy, where I'm like, sometimes I'm super into it, and there's sometimes no, I'm super into it, and then there's sometimes where like, say Lord of the Rings, I'm fucking into Lord of the Rings, but then there's other times I'll see a show and be like, not my thing, I'll just ignore it or whatever. But then there was a point where it started becoming like the biggest show on television. I was like, I'll catch up onto it, and I was obsessed. I loved the shit out of it. I was like, I want to see where this goes next. I need to see these dudes get got and all this shit. And then so I was like, to the point where it was appointment television, and it's probably the last one that I think has gone on just in a major way like this for a while. I don't think there will be anything like that for a while. So coming onto this, I was like, okay, I'm here to see a satisfying conclusion, because I was never a book reader. Like, I've never read any of the books still to this day. I will at some point. But I was like, hey, I'm just going in as a show. And as a show, it was so clever in the way that it did things, to the point where when season 7 showed up, and they're like, it's clear that there's no book to adapt left. Like, oh, I can see them cutting corners, how people are traveling much faster than they used to. And so I was like, oh, all right, I guess. I still want to see how this thing ends. So when it comes up to season 8, I'm like, hey, all this stuff looks cool, but it's sacrificing a lot of the shit that I liked about the show in the first place. And that's a massive shame, especially in some of the way some of the characters turn out near the end, where I'm like, this is actual horseshit.
Yeah.
Gene, you came into the show later. Was I the one that got you into it? I know I got a bunch of our mutual friends into it because I was obsessed.
Yeah,
the
you
year
wouldn't
this came
stop
out.
talking about it all
Yeah.
the time.
Sorry.
But yeah, you did, yes. I was very, because I read the first and the second book. I need to finish it. I think I might finish the books when they're all complete, whenever that may be.
Oh, so you'll never read them?
Never read them, I guess. Yeah. Yeah.
Just calling you out.
And I was very hesitant to see the final season because just everything about it was just like, what? Like, it's only going to be 6 episodes. I mean, some of them are going to be longer, but it's only 6. There's no books that they're adapting it from. George R. R. Martin isn't involved, and I don't know. I was always kind of holding my breath, and I came in just very hesitant, just a little cautious. I'm like, oh no, what are we getting ourselves into?
I've started watching this show the year it came out, but like a month after it ended. I binge watched the entire thing, fell in love with it. I went out to buy the books because the 5th book had just come out that year, and I was like, this is perfect. And I read them all like back to back over the next couple weeks and months. And varying quality across those early seasons, but generally pretty outstanding stuff. Season 5 felt like a splash of cold water to the face, where I was like, wait, what is this? What's happening? This is just misery porn. Season 6 brought me back to the point where I was like, I think they can do it. I think they can end this on a good note. And as non-shy as I've been about my feelings about these later seasons, I love the Battle of Winterfell episode. Writing aside, the writing is not why I like that episode. I've come around on the burning of King's Landing a lot. Again, the writing is not what I'm walking away with here. I have to have caveats,
Mm-hmm.
And I even consistently ragged on the showrunners on Twitter, just like, these guys are going to direct the finale. Oh boy, I'm going to open a beer, get my popcorn ready.
They're going to do a Star Wars movie?
Are they doing 3?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if they're directing though. I think they're just going to write and produce. Anything could happen. So. But I found myself in tears consistently through the finale. Here's the thing: how they got to this point, a lot of it is bullshit. There's a lot of compact narrative and character arcs that don't track very well. Maybe in the broadest strokes, I could see show Dany becoming the Mad Queen. Like in the books, it makes more sense for that version of the character.
Mm-hmm.
The show, not really so much,
because they had to condense it into that one moment where she's hearing the bells and shit. And even then, I'm like, that's even if you've been building this up throughout the entire show, that actual final push into the turn is bullshit.
It is, and it's she did murder a lot of people. Slavers and stuff are objectively terrible. And even Tyrion has that whole monologue, one of 5 he gives in the final episode, which is hilarious to me. But the way they play it out, they never play it as something to be fearful of. They're always like, isn't Dany so badass? I'm like, yeah, it's kind of badass, but you don't get to earn that turn by just being surprised. That was actually a bad thing, without ever seeding that for the audience to feel. You can't frame something one way and then rug pull it and be like, it was actually bad. You should feel bad about it, and that's gross. But they turn out to be decent directors. I thought there was a lot of striking imagery. I know people clown on that one dude who was tweeting about that shot that should be studied
but it's
in
a fucking
school
cool shot though. So
it was cool.
It is. Yeah.
So it's not like he's wrong, but it's he took it maybe a bit too far with the should be taught in film class.
Right.
Sure, it's it's on the nose. Yeah, still cool as fuck.
Yeah.
It's obvious imagery, but it's why wouldn't you do that? You know,
You
it's
might
kind
as
of
well.
like Stranger Things too. I don't know if you've seen that, Shaq, but like when someone goes to the upside down, the camera turns upside down. It's like, yeah, of course that's obvious, but how could you not do that? You
Yeah,
know,
you
like
might as well.
um, I thought Danny dying was actually very sad. I felt for that character for the first time in years.
Mhm.
Uh, I thought Tyrion finding Jaime and Cersei's body was heartbreaking. Um,
Mhm.
Drogon burning down
The
the Iron
throne.
Throne made me cheer because I've said for years that's how the series is going to end, and I fucking knew it.
Mhm.
Um, and I was basically weeping when we saw the Starks go off in their different directions across the globe, and I was like, oh my, this felt like the end of an era.
I'll say that most of the good things you said all happened in the first 30 minutes. There's still another 60 right after that. That is
Mhm.
just horseshit. Like like that whole, actually no, there's one thing that did actually actively pissed me off where I said fuck you, was the point where they had to go with the fan servicey route, which is Sam saying, hey, here, I had a book of all this called A Song of Ice and Fire. I actively said
Oh,
fuck you.
yeah.
Oh,
That
that was
was
cruel.
that was
That was cruel.
so
That was
fucking.
disgusting. Like you could have crowbarred that title in any way, shape, or form, but that was the worst way you could have done it.
And they did not earn that.
No.
They did
No.
not earn that thing. Like when it happens in the end of Lord of the Rings, which this ending also just is, by the way. So that's weird.
Mhm.
Uh, it's earned. It's like, oh, it's the story of Frodo and his uncle Bilbo, like their journeys across Middle Earth, there and back again, and the Hobbit's tale. And here it's just like, oh yeah, this is also the name of the things that we showed to you. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't mean anything. And so you're right, there's bullshit in this episode. And again, I will not really argue with anyone that there was a lot of bullshit to get to here, but considering on how everything was set up, this is about as good. This is better than I ever hoped for, because I was expecting like an all-time or worst finale, and I thought it was actually pretty dang good.
Mhm.
I don't know. I feel like I'm alone in this mostly.
Mhm. I'm not
Um.
angry about it. I'm just
Yeah.
like, to be fair, I was just so exhausted by the previous episode that I was like, you know what? I see that they're not gonna end strong, so I'm just like, I'll just take it for what it is.
Oh
Mhm.
yeah,
And
no,
so
the ending.
I wasn't mad. I was just kind of apathetic about it.
I totally get that. This ending should have been an all timer if they had done these characters and stories better in previous seasons.
Yeah.
But I'm grading on a curve right now
Hmm.
Mhm.
because there's like all time or worse episodes in the back half of this series. Um, and I felt glad. I feel more content than I ever expected to, given the way things were heading. And so that might be kind of a softball, but I said on the last episode, Gene and I did too, where
Mhm.
even if this was the worst ending ever, I would be thankful for the great times I had with Game of Thrones, because a lot of this is some of the best television I've had the experience of tuning into, and
Oh,
I'll be
definitely,
thankful for that.
100%.
Mhm.
Still
Like,
very concerned about that Star Wars though.
I'll probably
Yeah.
like, the thing is, as much as I rag on this final season or whatever, I'm still probably gonna buy the box set once it finally shows up in like one big package.
Mhm.
Oh God,
Yeah.
yeah. The Blu-rays for like the big battle episodes, like those are gonna be stunning, to watch on a nice television and everything.
Mhm.
But
Yes.
yeah. Favorite characters. Do we have a favorite character we want to say goodbye to?
Um,
Favorite character and favorite season. You don't have to do them both at the same time.
okay, I'll come back to the character, but I know for season it's either 3 or 4.
Hmm.
Probably
Nice.
4, because one, it finally got to get rid of fucking Joffrey. The trial of Tyrion is one of the best moments. We're talking like top 3 in the entire series. And also, I'm so, because I've played so many violent video games, watched so many violent movies, and watched so much shit, that I felt mostly desensitized to just violence on screen. To like, and it's not until the Mountain and the Viper episode happened, and then when fucking
Ooh.
Oberyn died, I
Mhm.
screamed like I witnessed a real murder. It was horrifying, and I was like, I've never felt like this before in a long
That
time.
that was
This is
just
awesome.
brutal. Yeah.
Yeah. And that one hurts so much too, because it's like, oh yeah, this dude's like a swaggering Han Solo type. What's this cool ass motherfucker doing in Game of Thrones? And then he goes out like that, and
He
it's
could
like,
have won.
holy
He could
shit!
have won if he wasn't just so busy talking shit.
Yo, you know what?
Yeah.
I'm gonna stand up for him. He was trying to get a confession out of the dude. You know, he was being cocky, but he was trying to get a confession out.
I understand that,
But
but at the
yeah,
same
maybe a
time,
little
you
much.
gotta just like actually incapacitate him, like make sure he can't feel arms and shit.
Mhm.
Yeah, he was smart enough to have done that, I guess, or maybe not. Gene, favorite season?
I would go with season 1 actually. The just the whole world building that they do is really great, and then just like I really love the reveal that, well, almost like if Ned isn't the main character, they just kill him off. Like you think he is kind of the central protagonist. I mean, I hadn't read the books when I saw the first season, and they just like guillotine him, and that was pretty shocking, I would say,
Yeah,
back when I first started. Yeah, and I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, season one is actually my favorite season too. I think it's
Oh, okay.
yeah, rewatching a lot of the highlight episodes before this final season just to get ready. You know, I found myself really. That's the one I sat through the entire way through. I was like, I think I took this for granted. There's incredible world building.
Hmm.
The characters are clearly defined. There's a great mystery plot. Um, the politics are really interesting. Characters aren't stupid yet.
Yes.
That might be
Yes.
harsh, but like that's a big thing. Um, and it consistently like recreates its own narrative and like pushes itself like where can we go from here, how are they going to get out of this? Oh well, maybe some characters don't get out of it, but the show has redefined itself in like the back half of that season like 5 times. um, I'll never forget watching that moment where Sean Bean dies. I was like clutching the sides of my desk because I was so tense. I was like, no, he's gonna get out of it. He's the main character. He's gonna get out of it. He's gonna
Hmm.
what? And I just like exploded. You know, like I didn't know what to do with like my body.
Then
um,
it just ends.
yeah. Oh, and that's maybe the best episode of the series. Still, I don't know. There's a lot of great ones. Um, but I think I'm also gonna say that Sansa Stark's probably my favorite character.
Hmm.
All the bad stuff just comes from like the bad writing of the character. You know, like in
Yeah.
the middle of the series. But generally, she's the one that's got her head on her shoulders.
Hmm.
Um, she's the one who I actually trust in charge of like a monarchy. Everyone else, I'm like, no, burn that shit down too with the Iron Throne. But no, Sansa. Aside from her, I would have actually said Ned Stark. I've never loved another character on Game of Thrones like I cared about Ned Stark. And
um,
I miss
I
him
mean,
dearly.
the obvious favorite for me is probably Arya, but I'm always a sucker for also like the side characters that like even though they don't have as much to do, I just
Hmm.
love when they're there. So like Braun or
Oh
Podrick
yeah.
or even like Braun became way more of a major character like as things went on. But like when she first showed up and she was really there, I'm like I want to see more of her do badass shit.
Hmm.
Oh, and the Hound because he's just so pithy all the fucking time.
Oh, you know what? I want to give a shout out to Jamie Lannister actually because I've never gone from hating a character so completely to being like I'm fascinated with what this guy does next. Like,
Yeah,
that was a great character for the most part. They
it hurts me that like that's how they make him go out. I know there's people.
Hmm.
I've had so many arguments with people like, no, that was a good way for him to go. I'm like, no, fuck off with that.
Yeah. Just under rubble. I mean,
it's one of those things where I don't buy the turn. I see what they were doing, but because of
hmm,
like the compacted season, it just there's no way that would have worked.
Exactly.
yeah, I would. Yeah, I would agree too. Where it's like it's not that I don't like them dying together, but just like the turn of events that caused that to happen. We're just like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will play devil's advocate. I will say I'm very okay with Cersei dying like that.
Yeah,
I
I
would
didn't
even fine
mind
with
that
it.
as much.
I would have been fine with that if it was just her by herself.
Hmm.
Like she's lost
Yeah.
everything, and so she dies. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's tragic, even for someone who's often as vile as her. She was a tragic character at the end of the day, kind of too. You know, like what else was she supposed to do with how she was raised by like Tywin Lannister of all people?
Mhm.
Hmm.
Like not
Like
exactly dad of the year.
No.
my issue with it is that like had they still stuck with this Jamie thing of like him just saying like, no, I got to go be with my sister, I would have preferred if that either never happened or if he just didn't make it to her in time. Like him having that fight with Euron, that still happens, and Euron still gets like a fatal blow, but like Jamie's still trying to make it there, but just dies on the way there, and she dies by herself because at this point, I don't feel like she deserved any sort of just like, hey, I'm here with my brother and I love you, we'll die together type deal.
Yeah.
Like, I know that's reminiscent of like real life shit,
Right.
but I don't think it deserved that.
I think that would have made the point that they're trying to make even more clear too. Like the idea that like, obviously their love is horrible and wrong. I mean, not to put aside the incest, that's obviously like the main reason why it's horrible and wrong. But they also just bring out the worst in each other, and so it's like a futile relationship. So she dies alone, he dies on his way back to her. That would have I think solidified it for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But bamboozled. Gene, and any favorite characters you want to say goodbye to before we wrap up?
Yeah, I would still go with mine has always been Arya. Just
Nice.
always just love her character development and how Maisie Williams portrays her. And I think she had a good send off the final season. She just like Gendry asked her like, "Do you want to be the my lady?" She's like, "No."
Yeah,
like,
that was
yeah, like, what the
like
fuck
I ain't
do
about that.
that?
Like I'm the Grim Reaper out here. Actually, you know what? There's one character I forgot to mention goodbye to, who was my original favorite character, and I was pissed off when I realized he wasn't gonna make it. Fucking Khal Drogo. Khal Drogo was my absolute favorite character because I'm like, he is fucking Conan. Like before I realized that he ended up playing Conan, but I'm like, this dude rules. I just see him murder shit every episode. And then for him to die in season 1, I was like, well, I can't like anybody, can I?
Oh God, yeah. I mean, he was a great character too. The one thing I always had iffy about the very first episode, he does force himself upon Dany.
That I was not a fan of.
In the books, he doesn't. Like he waits for her to be okay with it. So I'm like, why did they change that? That's weird. But that brings up another problem too in later seasons. Like they just have the Dothraki there, and they have no point of view character. Like they have no mouthpiece, but the Unsullied do. It's so weird. I don't know. There's a lot of issues in the back half of the season or series. I don't want to spend any more time ragging on that. I've done enough.
Yep. Grey Worm also is incredible. He's probably like, I'm so glad they didn't kill him off at the end too. Like people are like, oh, we needed a John Grey Worm fight. I'm glad we didn't get that.
Yeah, actually, me too. I was like, don't do this. This is not going to make anything better. Don't do this. And
he was the most justified in everything.
Yeah, I buy his turn more than Dany's, which is like crazy. But I think that'll wrap it up for Game of Thrones for us right now. Thank you. Goodbye. Don't fuck up Star Wars, please.
I hope the prequels are better. I hope they're prequels.
Everyone, I know there's people who are like, oh, these guys have never been good. And then I found out, what was it? Benioff wrote freaking 25th Hour, which is one of Spike Lee's best movies.
Oh, yeah, that movie's amazing.
So I'm like, okay, so he has the power in him to write good shit. It's just, I think with them getting Star Wars, that they just like, fuck it, we'll just wrap this up so we can go work on the stuff that we actually like.
I feel like that's exactly what happened too. I don't know why they didn't just hand the reins to like Brian Cogman. He's like basically the third showrunner on the series, and he's written a handful of the best episodes. I don't.
He actually cares.
George R. R. Martin likes hanging out with him. He doesn't like hanging out with the other two showrunners. I think that's
really
telling. Yeah.
No, wait, really?
Yeah, Brian Cogman.
Yeah, no, but he doesn't like hanging out with them?
Well, I don't think he wants to spend time with them if he doesn't have to. I don't think he dislikes them. I just don't think they're buddies, you know? Like they're work, they have a work relationship, not a friend relationship. Whereas with Cogman, they get along that well just because they share the same headspace, you know? But
okay, fair enough.
Yeah. Oh, well, on to greener pastures. Our dream of spring starts this summer with a little movie I saw the other day called Booksmart.
I love that too. I love that.
Shak, have you seen this yet?
I haven't yet. What kills me is that I've had at least a good 2 or 3 chances to see it early, and because of life things, that couldn't happen. Like, because we have a theater out here in Toronto called the TIFF Lightbox, which is like the festival. They have their own little art house theater, which is expensive but great as hell. And then in the beginning of the month, they're like, hey, we're putting out a super early screening and we're having Olivia Wilde do a Q&A and everything. And I was so set to go. I bought my ticket and then something happened. I was like, well, I couldn't go. And then it happened at least 1 or 2 more times where they had early screenings that are like, yo, you can come through, and then just didn't happen. And even this weekend, I was so busy with things that like I'm gonna try and see it on Tuesday.
Please do. This movie's unfortunately
I
struggling.
want to so bad.
You need to see it.
It's also like basically a masterpiece. I loved it. I was really looking forward to it, but I loved it beyond what I was hoping for.
Right.
I am surprised at how high the praise is, because I figured it would be funny. Like I enjoyed the trailers, but I was like, I'll enjoy it, but I'm not sure if I'll love it or anything. But then I see everyone else going like, no, this is legitimately incredible. I'm like, well, shit, I gotta rush over.
Yeah, there's like this thing with American studio comedies, you know, where like it's just kind of a bunch of comedians riffing back and forth. I'm like, yeah, I like that too, you know. But every once in a while, you get a really special one. I think Neighbors and Neighbors 2 are actually kind of huge standouts in this department.
Yeah.
Even a lot of the Seth Rogen stuff I really love, but you know, not that creatively directed.
The De Niro,
that's fine.
The De Niro gags and Neighbors really got you.
Oh, that was great.
Oh yeah. Booksmart is easily up there with those, if not even more favorable in my opinion. Olivia Wilde, it's her first like feature-length movie.
That's crazy.
And I could never tell. Like she's really great at blocking the characters depending on like the situations, whether they be funny or like kind of sad. There's a lot of sad moments in it that I wasn't ready for. Very inventive animated sequence, I'll say.
Yeah. That was something else.
There's a lot of little flourishes that really caught me off guard, but it's got a lot of heart. It's very wholesome. And I'll continue laughing my butt off. And I'm very jealous that like France or someone already got it on Netflix, and I'm like I want to go to there now because I want to watch it like France again. Yeah. But no, that's a great movie. Did we all see John Wick 3?
Hell yeah!
Yes. Fuck yeah! All right, let's do this. Shaq, what do you think of John Wick 3?
This movie fucking rules, dude.
Fuck yeah!
And honestly, I really start to legitimately think that this might be like the best American action franchise we've ever gotten. And I'll say that it may be. Like right now, it's just the word "may." But the way they wrap it up, they leave it open for a fourth film. If they end it at that fourth film, that statement is absolutely fucking certified. This shit is just, this movie alone has so many all-time great action sequences in just the first 30 minutes that I was so like, it was like watching Mad Max Fury Road again for the first time, where I'm like, I can't believe how they're doing this. And it's so, and not just that, but just like the way that the world is still expanding and it's still super fascinating to me. Like they're not telling you anything about the world, but you're still like, they give you enough clues to go, okay, here's a little thing of what happened. It's like, oh, I want to know, but I don't want to know, and you just keep it that way. Just everything about this is so fucking flawlessly crafted. It's astounding that they're still finding new ways to do this shit, and it's still fresh. Fuck me, dude. This movie's a masterpiece.
Yeah, this and Booksmart, watching them like back to back, basically in the last weeks, I was just like, oh yeah, movies are good.
Movies are good now.
Yeah, movies are good again.
Cinema is great.
I like movies sometimes. Gene, what'd you think of John Wick 3?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I felt that it really, it didn't feel like the same thing as John Wick 1 or 2, and like it really keeps expanding the world a bit. And I was very happy with how it ended, and I really would want to see John Wick 4. I would immediately want to have it after. But like, I mean, not to be nitpicky, but I didn't like some of the plot of the movie at times, where it just kind of, where John Wick just kind of starts where he started. And that was almost like, I don't know if that was the point where it's like really the whole movie was like, his whole like quest was like futile, but it was just kind of like, well, why did he do all of that if it doesn't matter? So I mean, I hate to be nitpicky.
No, I think you bring up an interesting question. I disagree with you, but I see where you're coming from. You know, like what did Quentin Tarantino say? I disagree with your hypotheses.
Yeah.
So, I don't think that takes wrong. I just think that is what the movie's saying, and whether or not someone likes that is completely up to them. You know, you're not wrong for thinking that. I think
Yeah.
you're wrong, but you are not.
Oh,
No,
thank you.
no, well, like, because like John Wick 2, there was I saw a lot of criticism about how, like, well, it's not as fun as the first one because John Wick doesn't want to do it, and it's like the point of the movie is like a mile above their head. You know, like, yeah, he doesn't
That's the
want
point. Yeah.
to. Yeah, like the point is that he started the cycle of violence again,
Yeah.
basically to comfort himself after losing his wife and the dog that she left him behind, and now he's just in this rabbit hole that keeps getting deeper and deeper. Like, by the end of that movie, he's lost everything except for the dog. And at the beginning of John Wick 3, just quick spoilers, I guess, that he has to give up the new dog that he got for himself
Yeah.
because he's going on his own journey, and yeah, nothing changes for him. I think because of the confines of the war that he's fighting against
The
members
high
of that
table.
society, yeah,
Right.
and that the only way through hell for him is kind of like,
Is going deeper.
yeah,
Yeah.
and now he has to
Yeah.
like basically break everything down. And so it's funny going into John Wick 3. I was like, I really hope they don't tease John Wick 4. I really want this to just be like a standalone trilogy.
Same.
And then I saw it and I was like, oh fuck yeah, let's go John Wick 4 right now. Let's do it.
Yeah. And then you want to see the ballerina, and then him and Atomic Blonde
Yeah.
over.
Oh,
God.
that would be fun. I don't know how they do
Yeah.
that, but that'd be kind of fun.
I know. I was just gonna add one thing I really liked about the movie. Can't get enough of. Weren't there some really great dogs in
Oh,
this
yeah.
movie?
Nothing but good boys.
Nothing but good boys. 13 out of 10s.
Yeah,
They, like,
exactly.
they kill people.
So
They're
many
good
shots
boys,
to the
yeah.
dick. So many shots to the dick. Like, I was clutching my crotch in pain. Like, no, don't do that.
It's the best movie of the summer, best
Yeah.
movie of the year, maybe just because of the dogs alone. You know,
And no
apart
dogs
from the
got
impeccable
hurt.
craft.
Yeah, no dogs were
Endgame
killed.
had no dogs.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't wait for John Wick 4. It's not something I expected to say going into this.
Yeah.
Shaq, you know, I'm gonna hand it off to you. What else have you seen recently? Because you sound like a busy dude. I don't want to waste your time.
Actually, there's a smaller movie that came out on VOD just recently called Avengement. It stars Scott Adkins, who you've seen in a bunch of action movies, and it is fucking great. It kicks ass. So for those who don't know, it stars as him as like kind of like this low-level thug who gets an extended prison sentence and just becomes a stone cold badass because this prison is essentially like talking like, you know, the show Oz is if you replace like the prison rape in Oz where just prison fights every single day unprovoked for no reason.
Oh my god.
And he's dealing with that for like 8 years, and then he breaks out and he holds up a bar and just describes everything that happened to him and his quest for revenge. And it's fucking cool because you're watching it and you're like, this man has so much charisma. I want to see Scott Adkins star in way more things, way more often. We're talking like Jason Statham, Tom Hardy crossover type like charisma. You're like, man, this dude is electric. He's intense. He's charming. He's funny. And you're like, I want to see this more. And so you're shocked. Like, I'm watching this shocked that he hasn't been in a major thing, more major things anyway. But yeah, this movie fucking rules.
I gotta check that out because I love Scott Adkins. And I'm a recent convert. Like only a year or two ago, I started catching up with his stuff, and he's awesome. He's like in a fight scene in Doctor Strange, and he's like a henchman in Expendables 2, and it's like those do not service him at all. This guy should be like just a house
a legitimate
name
leading
star.
Man. Yeah,
he's great physicality, but also a really good actor. What's he doing in the direct to video market? I mean, those there are good movies there too, obviously, but why isn't he blowing up? That's crazy. We're doing him a vast disservice. Gene, look into Scott Adkins, my friend. Okay. You will not be disappointed.
I will. So yeah, because it seems pretty awesome. I mean, yeah, I felt lost in the conversation, but I'm gonna have to like Google. No, that's all right.
You need to. Like the thing is, you may have seen him before in things and just didn't recognize who he was.
Yeah,
but no, he fucking rules. And then also, I know it's a very old film, but because it was concerning recent events, I saw Baby Boy because they were playing it at the TIFF Lightbox, like a John Singleton thing. And it's a good movie, but I was not prepared for how fucking weird that movie is. Because literally the opening shot of Baby Boy is Tyrese as a fetus, like a grown-ass man in a fetus. because at the same time he's having this whole monologue where he's like about how black men are just like in a state of perpetual youth, how he called like our house the crib and stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, that's like, it's a poignant scene, like at least the monologue wise, but then just the visual makes it so weird. And then on top of that, the rest of the movie just doesn't really have anything to do with that as much as it's just like a rap skit for an hour and a half. But it's a fun movie that like I think people should just watch just for how just absurd it is.
Yeah, I think Hollywood did him dirty too. It's really too tragic. He left us way too soon.
Yeah, he did.
I'd be lying if I said I loved all his work, but what I do like, I really like. He obviously Boys in the Hood.
Yep.
But he also was the first person to reboot Shaft in the year 2000.
And that movie's good as hell. It's underrated.
It's so good. Yes. Oh my god. I'm really excited for the new Shaft. Just
with Christian Bale as with Christian Bale as the villain. Which watching it, because I just watched Batman Begins, I couldn't think of him as like, oh wow, this is different.
Yeah, and that movie owns. Everyone should watch it.
Yeah, especially as Samuel Jackson as Shaft, and then he's gonna come back.
Yeah, no, this new movie, I'm excited.
Yeah,
I hope it's good. I have high hopes. That's my Infinity War this year.
The funny thing is, my mom doesn't go to the theaters that often, but she loves Shaft. So I'm like, oh hey, yeah, we'll go together for that. It's like Mission Impossible and Shaft. Those are the only things she'll go out of her way for theater.
Your mom has impeccable taste.
Yes. If it's a spy flick, then she's in for it.
Oh hell yeah. Moving on to two more movies. Gene, do you want to talk about Brightburn?
Yeah, I think I will start off the conversation for Brightburn because I was curious your take. Because I think I saw your Letterboxd score was like 2, and then mine was 3. So I think I liked it a bit more than you, like just by a little bit. But I feel like we might have the same problems, where it feels like it never like this idea of an evil Superman. Like they get the like strands of the idea, but they never quite like get this like whole like evil Superman angle like completely. It felt like it just kept coming up short. And like with other evil Superman tales, like I don't know, I know Mark Miller's a pretty terrible writer, but I think Red Sun pretty captures it pretty well, where it's just the I mean, it's a horror movie, but like just the fact that he doesn't do anything else besides just like kill and like maim people felt a bit boring to me. Where it doesn't like explore those. He could rule the world. I mean, you have the Craft just telling him like take over the world or something. Like until the end credits, it doesn't really capitalize on that. And I was like, it felt really constrained by its budget, and I was really hyped to see this. Yeah,
honestly, like even as someone who hasn't seen it yet, it just felt like it does. A lot of the problems that you bring up are like the ones that I kind of had in my mind. Not to mention like the whole just like what if superpowers but evil. I feel like there's a lot of movies that have already done that, have tackled it in a unique way, like Chronicle, for example.
Yeah,
I think like I look at that and I look at this. I'm like, there's a way to do it with a lower budget, but still have like a kind of unique aspect about it. And this one just felt like it didn't go anywhere past what if Superman but bad.
Yeah, I would really agree. Yeah.
Chronicle is also, even though it's written by a garbage human being, it remembers that the downfall of this kid who's bestowed with these powers is ultimately tragic. Like it's sad that this kid has like no other outlet to explore, like life just pinned him down so much. His dad's definitely not helped anything. It's sad. And Brightburn, I don't think cares about its characters. And I like vile stuff too. Bad Boys 2 is like my shit.
Dude, Bad Boys 2 rules.
Oh, Bad Boys, yeah, that's the most American film ever made. But like this movie doesn't need to care about its characters either, I guess. But I think there's an interesting through line with this Brightburn and the Lynn Ramsey movie, We Need to Talk About Kevin, where it's kind of like if these American families are not going to discuss like actual problems, like institutional or emotional or otherwise, problems can start to arise. We'll just say, if you haven't seen We Need to Talk About Kevin.
Yeah. Lynn Ramsey, underrated director as well.
Very, and I think she would have actually made this movie much more interesting if you got into like the psychology of the kid, because it's not they're not interested in that. They're interested in like the kills and whatever. And I will say, the kills are pretty good.
Yeah, there's some really really gory kills. Like me and my girlfriend watching, like, oh, I had to look away for like 1 or 2 scenes actually.
Okay, that's good at least.
Yeah, so if you do check it out, I think slasher fans will be more happy. But
I don't know what
kind of gonna get out of it.
I don't know what it is, but like movies that like James Gunn writes or produces but doesn't direct always end up being shit.
Yeah,
because like the Belko Experiment could have been great, but was trash until like Mayhem literally did the same thing but better.
Yeah.
And then I think of this, it's like, okay, well, that's a shame. Like he's super talented. It's just I think if he directs it, he could find a way to make it unique.
I think it's kind of, although I do like the Belko Experiment, I think more than you, Shak. I think it's very similar to a Joss Whedon situation, where like if he handles it, I love it. Or if like one of his acolytes, I guess we'll call him, like Drew Goddard, Cabin in the Woods, Bad Times. I really like those movies, and they have very Whedon flares. Well, he co-wrote one of them. But if someone else does it, like Alien Resurrection, a Joss Whedon script, which I find fascinating, but does not work on the screen at all, or like Titan AE, where it's like, this is just
hold up, you know what? If you get Belko, then I get Titan AE, because I fucking love Titan AE.
No, I love Titan AE too, but it's got problems. But I'm maybe the #1 Titan AE fan.
Yo, dude, I remember when I rented that from my library on VHS, and I almost destroyed that tape of how many times I watched that movie.
Yeah, Diego, and it has the best Creed soundtrack.
No, the Creed is only in the trailer, Gene. They're not in the movie.
You have to explain that joke.
Dude, Cosmic Castaway is such a good song.
It's the shit. It's the most 2000 soundtrack ever, apart from Digimon.
Dude, Power Man 5000, Lit, The Urge, Jesus Christ.
It owns. Titan AE is better than Brightburn.
Yeah, no, I would agree to that. Yeah, we could all say
that. The last movie I just want to talk about before we wrap up the show officially. Did anyone see Aladdin?
No.
Good. Let's talk about King Arthur, Legend of the Sword. So King Arthur, Guy Ritchie's previous movie. Gene and I are huge fans of it, and that's because it actually owns and is actually incredible.
I'll say King Arthur's an actual fucking mess, but the thing is, like, I don't think it's a good movie, but it's a movie I really want to see a sequel to, because the thing is that my favorite parts of the movie are the parts that work the least. And what I mean by that is the parts that Guy Ritchie puts his Guy Ritchie isms into it. Where like the opening scene after like they show King Arthur growing up, but the part where he's being interrogated and it's just essentially just doing Snatch just with King Arthur characters. I wanted the entire movie to be nothing but that. Just to make it a gangster flick. It just happens to have King Arthur in it.
It's got flourishes of that for sure.
Exactly. And I would hope that at least Aladdin had shit like that for the whole movie. I would be more happy and more willing to go see it if it did, but apparently it doesn't, so I don't want to go see it.
Oh, if there was a character in Aladdin that's just like, you like Dags, I would give it 5 stars.
I want to see her as like, hey, if this guy's a genie. He's like, why do they call him the genie? Because he's a fucking genie, that's why. Shit like that.
Like an R-rated Aladdin.
Oh, yeah. Then I would gladly give this conglomerate my money.
Guy Ritchie, just do the same movie every single time. I would be there for every single one of them.
Yeah, and then if it had like was it for some of the lines, it has like Gilbert Gottfried back as Iago, just like cursing.
Yes, go full on stand up.
Because they didn't ask him back out of all the people as Iago. They were like, no,
that's blasphemy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but I gotta fight you, Shaq. I think King Arthur is a genuinely good movie. I think it establishes stakes very clearly. It establishes Arthur's history to this banging soundtrack by Daniel Pemberton.
that opening montage. I was like, this is absolutely fucking insane the way it's edited.
Oh, it's like some punk rock, gothic, industrial sound in like this fantasy movie. It's like Game of Thrones. Oh no, it's like Lord of the Rings by way of like Led Zeppelin. It's crazy.
Yeah. And then they didn't have it in the movie. They had that Led Zeppelin song Just
Yeah,
in the
in the
trailer.
trailer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just in the
Yes.
trailer. Okay, because
But
I might
that same vibe goes through the movie.
Oh, of course. Is it? I think it was "Babe, I'm Gonna Leave You." I was like, oh, that's great.
Yeah, it should have been in the movie. Then it would have made money, but it didn't. So I'm sad about
It's
that.
a shit. Like I honestly wish it did make more money. Like even though again, it's a movie that I don't love, but I want to see a sequel to because I want to see more things like this. Take chances in the same way that this did.
Yes, take as big a swing with your movies as King Arthur does with his sword. And that,
Yeah,
boom.
because
That's
Yeah.
it's sad that like yeah he went for the fence with King Arthur, and then you look at Aladdin, which a lot of people, from what I understand, they say it's not bad, but it just feels unnecessary because it's like the same movie. And I, yeah, no, if he just went as weird with that, if he did with that, it would have been great.
I don't want to go too hard into the Disney thing, but I think there's a trend recently with their live action movies where all the reviews sound the same. It's like, yeah, it's not bad, but it's not really necessary. And it's like, maybe we shouldn't be spending money to see them then. Even for Guy Ritchie, whom I love with all my heart.
I haven't spent money on a single one of these live action remakes. The only one I will is Lion King, and that's because I want Donald Glover to sing with Beyonce, and I want to see that and hear that and be just taken away by how good it sounds.
I will listen to the soundtrack on YouTube.
No, I want to see it happen with my eyes.
No, they've turned you.
No, that's the only one. Everything else, I'm like, no.
That's the one that's gonna make like $2 billion.
Yeah.
Well,
no, what they need to do is live action versions of their direct-to-video sequels. That's where the money is. Remake like Return of Jafar, or remake Lion King 2 Simba's Pride. Give me that.
Like just something that's I don't know, expands the story or something different. Where it's
you know what actually slaps from what I remember, anyways. Aladdin and the 40 Thieves.
Oh, yeah, with his like dad, and they're getting married.
Wait, Shaq, did you guys just talk about that one?
Dude, we actually spoiler for our next episode, but like we were looking at it, like we mentioned like people want us to go see it, and then I think one of us brought up Aladdin's dad, and everyone was like, Jesus Christ, this dude is hot. Go look at the picture for Aladdin's dad, and you're like, God damn it, he is.
Well, that'll be the photo that leads us out for the episode in the YouTube version of this, which you can like and subscribe to if you're listening to this. And if you didn't like this episode, like and subscribe anyways, because you might find something you do like. That's the show. Shaq, one more time, plugs. Where can people find you?
Find me at all the social medias at Shak Excellence. That's SHAK Excellence. You can follow me over on the sequels page, or that's sequels with 2 E's. We can find that wherever podcasts you can listen to. Also go over and follow us over at oneofus.net. We're at a bunch of shows that I've mentioned over the top of the episode. And if you like any of the stuff, give $1 or $2 and subscribe. We got a bunch of extra content if you listen to it, like movie commentaries, extra shows, and stuff like that. It's really good shit.
Gene.
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram, Gene9892.
And before we officially wrap up, best movie you saw this month?
Oh, it's John Wick. It ain't no thing. Like I could say Avengers, but like I didn't see Avengers this month. I saw it 4 times in April. But yeah, no, it's John Wick without a doubt.
Gene?
Yes. For this month?
Yeah.
I would go with probably Booksmart.
I actually think Booksmart more than John Wick 3. I don't know.
I gotta see this fucking movie. Jesus Christ!
I don't know. John Wick 3 is pretty fucking amazing,
agree.
but it's a close one. Find me at twitter.com, the Diego Crespo. Check out all the links from the Waffle Press down below. SoundCloud, YouTube, Spotify now, iTunes, Patreon. Check out the other retrospectives coming up soon. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We'll be back with more Godzilla and Rocket Man in the coming weeks because we're really excited about those. We have been professionally unprofessional.